What's up, everybody? I'm AD.
And I'm Sharee, and welcome back to another episode, actually episode 11 of In Between the Lines.
Let's go.
IBL, we're on a mission. Controversial discussion. From family addition to money to marriage and its abject. In between the lines.
Girl, yes, we're going to talk about it all. Family, blended family, how hard it was for us to blend together. We're going to talk about money. We're even going to talk about emotional affairs, girl. I can't wait.
All right, y'all, listen, we want you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Make sure that you share this link.
Share. We got a hot topic as usual for you guys to bless your life.
Come on.
And y'all, we're at 83 subscribers. And what do we say? We're trying to get to 100.
What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all?
What's wrong?
Make it happen.
We're getting a lot of testimonies. We're so excited, in all seriousness, with just the outreach that you guys have been giving and sharing. I mean, we're having therapists come up to us. We're having friends, couples, singles,
pastors. Leaders.
My son in college apparently is sharing our podcast to his friends, and I don't know. I'm a little scared about that, but
oh, good.
Nothing that we've never talked about. Is no news to him. But I'm excited about that. So let's kick it off with a question.
Random.
Very random.
Okay.
All right. So in just all honesty, you like my fit? So the hat.
Your fit.
Yeah. I guess that's what the kids say. The fit.
I thought you were saying your fit. I was like, false.
My fit. I got the
fit.
Colors. I got the cheetah. IBL cheetah.
So you're
colors.
saying your outfit?
Yes, my outfit.
Do I like it?
Do you like the hat with the the cheetah print?
I mean, honestly, no. No. A for effort.
In for effort. I mean, I tried. I'm not much for a designer, but I figure since I had the cheetah print on, I can just slap the hat on and
You're
then
so
we can just
beautiful.
start recording.
You make the clothes.
Thank you, babe.
You make the outfit.
So next time, don't do that.
Don't do that again. All gravy.
Anyway, our hot topic I'm really excited about.
Yeah, this might be a two-part series.
It could be.
Let's see.
We'll see how we get through it. So today, guys, we have a topic that we want to share with you. It's not heavy, but it's like, I feel like it's necessary. Hopefully for some of you, you'll find it eye-opening, maybe discovering some answers to some of the cycles that you are experiencing in your relationship, marriage, or family. And that topic that we're going to talk about today is how to break generational curses, how to break generational cycles.
Yeah. And what is a generational
what is it, right?
curse?
Like, we talk about this so much. Like, our goal is to make this so plain for you guys that when you tune off of this episode, you're going to be able to identify, man, I think this is one of those cycles that the Dorsets are talking about. And we're going to empower you with some strategies on how to break it. Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
And so, a shameless plug. It was so interesting. I just so happened to be reading. I've been visiting the Small But Mighty book that I wrote 3 years ago. And I had a parent actually reach out to me this morning. I didn't even tell you this part. This is another story. So two parents reached out to me today on Facebook. One parent reached out saying, listen, my kids are experiencing some torments. They feel like their children are coming under demonic attack, and they read the book and they just were looking for some guidance. And while I was talking to him, I actually opened the book, and there was a point in the chapter where it just was talking about our topic of today.
Cycles, breaking cycles.
And potentially generational. So I was kind of interviewing him, asking him some questions of their children. Is this a cycle? He said, yes, this happened last year, the same time. One of the children was actually hospitalized. The symptoms are coming back. Now, the reality is that we have to rule out natural things too, right? Because there are natural causes and natural phenomena that we face living in the earth, right? And so I don't want to always always go to uber spiritual, but parents kind of know and sense the difference between this is just a cold, or this is a sickness, or this is something that is deeper that keeps perpetuating in my child's life. And so anyway, so I just so happened to open it up to the chapter to Breaking Generational Cycles. Small but mighty, guys. If you haven't got the book, get the book.
Get the book.
Yeah, we're about to do a new relaunch, and we're going to be releasing a Small but Mighty coaching webinar that we're going to offer to the public. But let me just read you something out of on page 152. It says, "If allowed," and it's called, the title subject is breaking cycles. So if allowed, sin, which are thoughts and actions that are opposite to God's, can travel from one generation to the next, creating vicious cycles that need to be broken. They cannot be just ignored. Someone, that's y'all, within that generation needs to do the hard work of murdering the cycle and uprooting it, so that it is no longer permitted to perform in the next generation.
Somebody has to break it.
Somebody needs to stand up and say, I am a generational curse breaker.
Let's go.
Who is going to take the mantle to say that I'm willing to put in and do the work for my generation, that whatever cycles were passed down to my siblings from our parents, grandparents, ancestral line, that I'm the one that's going to break it, because I don't want to look down at my children, grandchildren, great grandchildren and say, my God, they're still dealing with the issues that our generation never broke.
Come on.
Never broke. Never broke.
So somebody's got to break it in your family.
And that was us. Like we decided when we became aware of this thing called generational curses or generational cycles or generational mindsets, whatever, and we began to identify them as being unhealthy. We intentionally, on purpose, said, we're not going to pass this down to our children. It's not happening. Like, there was this righteous indignation that to this day, when we see symptoms of our children kind of demonstrating bad behaviors that we demonstrated, or our parents, we just be like, no, we ain't dealing with this. This is what it is. We're going to expose it, uproot it, because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing. Here's the reality. Every generation should get better, bigger, wider, faster, wiser, richer, smarter. Like whatever you are, your children should be better at, because they're privy to your wisdom, your failures, and your wins. But the reality is, if we're not careful, intentional, we can not only pass down the good, but we can also pass down the bad.
And you can evaluate where you are in your life and say to yourself, did I just pass this down? Am I passing this down? Whatever that is, wherever you are, only you know that. Am I passing this down? Did I just pass this down? Am I watching my children getting ready to live out that cycle again?
And y'all that may not have a family yet, this is going to be so crucial for you, right? Maybe you're pregnant, maybe you're thinking about having children, or maybe you already have children. Here's what I want to say. If you're coming into this information and you already have children and you're raising them, and you're starting to see some of what we're talking about kind of manifesting your children's life, I want you to know it's not too late. And we're going to give you some biblical stories and advice on improving to you that it's not too late. Even in your grown children, you can help them and walk with them to break cycles so that they don't have to perpetuate it down to your grandkids.
So can I add what I thought a generational curse was?
Let's talk about it.
Growing up. And many of you who are watching, you probably thought what I thought or something similar, or maybe not. But I've run into so many people who used to think like this. So I thought, hearing what a generational curse was when I first heard that term as a child, I always thought there was like some witch somewhere standing over a stove or a hot fire with a big black pot, and they was stirring up a curse on me. I got that from TV, maybe, or I don't know.
It ain't that far fetched the way the world is going. Everybody's learning witchcraft, but I hear you.
But I'm not saying that witchcraft, that is what it is. But witchcraft can be a generational curse.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's a whole nother.
Witchcraft can be a generational curse.
Yes, witchcraft can be a generational curse.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not what we.
We
might talk about that, but that's not what we're talking
deep.
about.
That's
right?
real deep. Yeah.
So that's what I thought a generational curse was.
Yeah.
Growing up as a child, and that may be what TV has depicted it for it to be for us. I don't know. They showed us that. I don't know where I got it from, but but that's what I thought it was, and not learning now. That's not what it was.
Yeah, I mean, not in the sense of, I think that the church has done a horrible job in teaching on this, to be honest, and we make everything so spooky. Our job, we love when we teach, we want, whether you're familiar with the biblical principles or not, for you to understand how to win, right?
Yeah.
So if it's your first day and this is your first time hearing about, biblical principles that we live by, we still want to empower you to win, and without it being so deep. And so let's make it real plain. Let's talk about some of the generational cycles that we personally broke as individuals and even together as a married couple.
Yeah. So you want me to start?
Yeah, go
All
for
right,
it.
so one of the cycles that for me that I found myself in was poverty mindset, welfare mentality.
Yeah.
Poverty mindset.
I feel like that's almost a generational culture or race.
You can have money and still have a welfare mindset.
Yeah, dollar amount doesn't necessarily change the way you think.
It's the shoebox mentality.
That's why they say most people, when they win the lottery and they don't come from money, they go broke in a year.
Yeah, that's so true. That's
but
so
go
true.
Back. Go ahead.
So
I digress.
So poverty mindset, generational mindset of welfare kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in the projects, 18 plus years. I think a total of like 22 years.
Which is poverty programming.
Yeah, straight. I like that. That was good.
Yeah,
poverty.
That's witty.
Poverty programming, right? Systematic
indoctrination.
Here we go.
She's a beast.
Anyway, I grew up in the projects. I shared most of my years in Southbridge, some of my years in Riverside. And you learn this behavior or mentality or mindset of pitching a tent and being comfortable. Yeah. Right. Feeling so comfortable that you lose sight that this place is just temporary. That's what it should be.
Yeah. It's get yourself together and get out.
This is where we are right now, kids. This is not who we are.
Right.
But hold tight. We're getting out of here.
Out. Yeah.
Mom and dad has a plan, or mom has a plan, or whatever.
Right.
That could be. Right. Has a plan, and we getting out of here. And then that's what it should be.
But you find most families stuck
there. And this is what happens. You see, it seems so easy because rent is $11, $9, $17, $22.
Now you're talking about in the projects.
In the projects, 4-bedroom.
Jesus.
Right? And so
I can see why you get
water is free. Food is practically free if you sign up for food stamps and welfare, right? And this is government cheese, the whole nine.
Right.
The WIC slips for milk and stuff like that. And it seems like you're just cruising because they don't even put a time limit on how long you can stay.
Yeah. Which is part of the problem.
To make room for the next.
Which is why that we're gonna get into something completely opposite, but which is why it's the to me, in my opinion, it's the modern day slave farm.
Oh, man, we could go there. We could talk about that.
If you can keep people capped, this is why I said that there are even generational curses and strongholds that bind up groups of cultures of people.
Yeah.
Right, the African American race. Every race has different challenges and issues. You see this, right? But specifically in the African American home, we're still breaking free from a slavery mindset.
Real talk.
That was passed down from great grandpop, right? And it's we're only like what 3 generations away from the slave farm.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
honestly. And our parents, every generation, when you know better, you do better. So that is what we should be passing down to our children. But there was a generation, not even too far ago, where it was just like, just go get a good job. And
Yeah.
if you got a good job in that generation, you was doing something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And which is cool. But now we're at the point where it's bigger. It's more than about just getting a new job. It's about what can you create? What can you know what I'm saying?
Right.
What inheritance can you leave to the next generation?
You don't really hear that kind of talk in where I grew up. You didn't hear that.
In my generation either. And I didn't grow up on the projects.
Right, but you don't really hear. Every once in a while, you would hear what somebody wanted to be, but that was very rare for me to hear that. But what ends up happening is generationally, you see what mom and dad was doing.
Yeah.
Mostly it was the daughters who had kids in the projects. They didn't fight. It didn't seem like you saw like this fight to get out and do something different.
Yeah.
What you saw was, could I be the next person on the Section 8 list to get a project?
Wow. And that was like the dream in a sense.
Yeah. When the question was, when can I get food stamps?
Right.
Right. So you're waiting for this, like you're literally waiting.
Well, because you're being taught. We mostly learn as kids, not necessarily what our parents tell us, but what they demonstrate before us.
Absolutely.
And so, if with you growing up in the projects with both parents, on welfare, with that wealth, would you agree that they both had a welfare poverty mindset that they passed down to you?
I'm gonna say they did, but I say more my father. That was more so because of the way he grew up. It was like he grew up country. Low level. It was just different and hard.
Which proves a point that though he probably tried to do the best he could, but he was still just replicating what he saw. So that's where it becomes generational.
Yeah, but I also actually felt like my parents were afraid of the unknown.
Yeah, which is another generational.
So go back to what you were saying, like how slaves. They said that if a slave master will let his slave free, open the door and say you're free to go, but he was enslaved for 40 years. They said 9 times out of 10
they wouldn't leave.
He wouldn't leave, or he would hesitate.
A lot of them did. I think they call it elephant syndrome.
Yes.
Where is that you identify more with what's familiar and comfortable, so you stay in the confines of, well, at least I'm gonna get 3 squares or maybe 2,
right,
versus not eating for I don't know how long. But what we want to present to you guys is that as a generational curse breaker or a cycle breaker in your life, in order to break anything, you have to take risk.
You have to do that. It's going to
require for you to dive and jump into the unknown. Why? Because it wouldn't be a generational curse or familiar thing that has a stronghold on you if it was familiar.
You can't don't find yourself loving what should be temporary. Right?
Yeah.
Right. You should hate that temporary space.
Yeah. Be indignant. Like, all right, it is what it is, but I ain't staying here. Like, don't adopt be comfortable.
Don't be comfortable.
Yeah, in a lower standard.
Don't pitch your tent for a temporary situation.
And that doesn't even go to just like a poverty mindset. Yeah. For me, a generational, I have 2 that I want to talk about because I think hopefully it'd be relevant to people. But one, for me, a generational thing that I wasn't even aware that it was generational was the generational curse and cycle of fear. I remember being a young child and wanting to try out for plays and wanting to try out for different parts and things like that.
Yeah.
And just didn't or singing parts, and was capable, but never did it. And there was a lot of opportunities that I know that I missed because of the spirit of fear.
Right.
And I didn't identify it as a generational cycle at 12, 13, 15, whatever. But it wasn't until I got older and started being introduced to this idea of a generational curse. And then he really honestly started seeing it started seeing fear show up in my children.
Yeah.
And I remember the day when I realized, oh my God, I basically gave my children this spirit of fear. And let me tell you why. Because even when I carried, especially the older two, I carried them in fear.
Yeah.
You know, I was a single mother with Cameron, so it was just like, it was just nothing but fear. Like, oh my God, am I going to be able to support my child? Oh my God, like, you know, I'm not with his father. Oh, like, everything was, oh my gosh, and everything was panic, and everything was fear. So it shouldn't be shocking that I said this actually in my book, that, you know, my son and the spirit of fear were cohabitating in my womb.
Yeah.
And we think that that's not a thing, but it is.
It really is.
Because even while you're pregnant, we have to be careful about the environment of the wombs that we are cultivating in our environments. And even science and psychology says that our mental state as a parent and spouse or partner matters to the emotional growth of the child, right?
Yeah.
So here I realized at some point that I transferred the spirit of fear to Cameron. Then I really seen it begin manifesting with Christian.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my second daughter was afraid of everything, and I didn't realize, like, I was that kind of mom. I would always be like, y'all better stop running before y'all fall, or nope, Cameron, don't do a backflip, I don't want you to break your neck. Like, everything
Real stuff though,
everything was like, don't do this because something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't realize this as a parent, but you're actually painting images of your children failing.
Yeah.
So you actually are transferring the spirit of fear of failure to your children unintentionally. And then on a lot of these things that may have been handed down to you, no real good parent wakes up and says, I want my child to live at the capacity that I am. Like, I think deep down in their heart, parents want their children to do better.
Yeah.
So a lot of our behaviors, guys, and the behaviors of our parents is unintentional.
Yeah.
Right? So I know for me, here's the one thing we're going to start getting to now, like, how do you break it, right? So the one thing that helped me break the generational cycle of fear, I forgot. Let me go back. So I remember realizing that this is in my life, and then started seeing it demonstrated in Cameron and Christian's life. So I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I was like, Mom, you know, I have this, and my Cameron and Christian have this. She's like, I didn't know you dealt with fear like that. And I was like, yes. And I began to tell her. She said, Sharee, my whole life, basically, it was riddled with fear. Yeah. And then she began to tell me her mother's life was riddled with fear. And ding, 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 the bell went off that there's a generational cycle that has been passed down with the spirit of fear ruling our lives. And guess what, guys? I had to get to the point where I said, no more. Like, I'd be darned if I see this thing show up in my grandkids. The devil is a liar. And so some of the ways that we began to break it, and in some aspects still breaking it out of their life, because they're some of my kids are more timid than others, is forcing them to do things. And I mean forcing. Some of y'all like, oh, we shouldn't force them. No, we need to get violent against the thing that's getting violent against them. I remember my daughter Christian, her first race in track, and now she's going to be running in a D1 college and all that, getting scholarships and stuff. But when she first started, she literally was petrified to get out on the track and run. So she says to me, Mommy, I can't do it. I can't do it, right before her race. And we had an opportunity to be like, all right, to pacify that spirit of fear and be like, next time. And I knew, we were like, the devil is a liar. And I remember saying to her, Christian, you're going to get out on that track with or without me running next to you.
Either or.
And
mom can run.
And I think she was more petrified of the idea and embarrassed that her mother would hop out on the track with her. But I just knew it was a power up moment where we had to force her to do it. And she's like, no, Mommy, no. Like, I'll do it. Don't go out on the track with me.
Right.
And she came in first place. And the rest,
easy.
And the rest is history.
By like 20 yards.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was 20 yards, babe.
Oh, 30.
Oh, my God, babe. But
by like 40.
Babe.
Okay.
Pause. So extra. Y'all think I'm extra. So anyway, so she won and the rest is history. But what if we pacified that spirit.
Where would she be today?
Where would she be today?
Man.
Because a lot of times, once you give it like a little foothold, that thing now swings wide, and it has now a right to grow roots.
Yeah.
And so, what we want to introduce to you guys is that this concept of maybe something has grown roots in your life, and as we're talking, I just pray that God is revealing to you maybe a generational cycle that maybe you're dealing with. I feel like God's saying, no, break it. It's time to break it. But I got another one, but I want you to share one of your.
I got one more. So,
okay.
well, I got a lot more, but I'll share one more. The fear of going after success.
And explain that. Why? So, like, it's the opposite of fear of failure.
Yes. So, I mean, you still have that, but you don't do it because you're afraid. But the fear of going after is pretty much that. Sorry, it's that not feeling like you're good enough, so it plays backwards on you though.
To stand in places that you feel unqualified.
Yeah. So you're afraid to go after success, because you're comfortable where you are.
Yeah.
The mindset that you have, you're comfortable where you are, but deep down inside, you have this talent.
Yeah.
And you internally size it up against anyone in your vicinity, and you say, "I'm way better."
Do you think that maybe your dad dealt with that because he was a musician?
He was look. Listen, my dad.
That's where you get it from.
Yeah.
And that's a generational legacy that he passed down to you, which is amazing.
Right. So it's my point. So my father never pursued. He talked about it.
Yeah.
But he never pursued recording any records, recording himself on or anything. Nor did I even knew that if he knew how to go about it. Like, I don't know anything about that. He could have. I don't know, but he didn't pursue that. But he had notebooks and notebooks of songs, love songs, that he wrote when he was in prison.
Wow.
Gospel songs he wrote when this almost made me want to cry. That he wrote when he was in prison. And he had a chess. There's a reason why I like chess.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So he had. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
He had a chest where he kept his notebooks of music, and when they took the house, they took the chest. And so I don't have any of his music, and if so, I would have recorded his music.
I know.
But his guitar was taken, all of his stuff was taken. But in this, I know the history of my family.
Yeah.
They could sing.
Musicians.
My uncle, his brother played guitar, had a voice. My cousin's mom, she passed away. By the way, they're all gone now.
Yeah.
Right? So they all could sing, but never pursued.
Yeah.
Never pursued. But one day my mom, this was 2 months before she passed away, she took me in the bathroom and told me to look at her in the mirror. And she said, told me 2 things. One I'm not going to say. That's for another episode.
Okay.
But she said to me, the second thing was, promise me you'll never stop singing.
Really?
She told me that. She said, promise me you will never stop singing.
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, I promise you. But here we are today with you, my lovely wife. That curse was broken.
It was. And remember, we felt like we remembered the moment, like that spirit flew. It felt like a spirit was lifted off of us because we have so much music, guys. Like, it's ridiculous. So we got more music coming out. But on both sides, there's this generational cycle, I believe, where there's a lot of gifts in our family.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential books, albums. I mean, our family is full of singers, writers. They're just dope people.
Real talk.
And I feel like the earth should be littered with the creativity of their hands, and yet a lot of it is still stored within them.
Yeah.
And I started seeing, honestly, when I listen, success for me was literally writing Small But Mighty and producing it and releasing it, because there's so many book writers in our family that have been talking about for generations about writing books, but never released it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was intentional. It was on purpose. It was, I don't want my children stopped up with so many gifts and something to say to the world, and it be a generational cycle that they just don't.
Yeah.
And so be a generational curse breaker. Do it. Release it. The world needs to hear your sound, your voice, and what you have to release. But it was something that you said about your dad and the music. I remember the moment when we released All I Need, and remember you said, I feel like I went through deliverance.
Yeah, I did. When we released that,
Our first single.
the first single, and we put it actually out there for the world to hear it
Yeah.
on all platforms. Go download it now. All I
Yes.
Need, the Dorsets. Something left. It felt like,
Something
I don't want to
broke.
scare nobody, but it felt like something left my body that was dark,
Yeah.
and I felt like, and from then
I remember you saying that.
I remember planning like the next songs and stuff like that. I wasn't afraid. I didn't care.
Yeah,
I
because
was
it's broke.
like, right.
It's like you can feel when this thing breaks off of your life. It's easy.
Yeah.
And that's step 2. That the first time you break it, the first time you do the opposite
Come on.
of what the
We're telling you right now how to break it.
Do the opposite. Like, what have you seen perpetrated
Perpetrate,
in
yeah.
your bloodline
Yeah.
that is negative, that is opposite of what you want to be? Then you have to do the opposite of what that is, right?
So even to the point we have cracked open so wide. Not only we're recording, not only we're investing in ourselves. If you
Yeah.
can see our basement, it's just like a pawn shop. It's like music equipment everywhere.
Which we need to sell. That's another.
But we had a song on the radio that hit top 100 in the first 2 weeks of gospel Billboard charts. That's what I mean by cracking open. So it goes from afraid to release to cracking open so wide that the music that we release has been heard all over the world, now recognized on Billboard charts. You're talking about breaking something. That right there.
Yeah.
So now for me, that's the ceiling.
Like people say, the sky's the limit. I feel like generationally, our sky will be our children's floor.
Yeah.
And so if we, what's bigger than what we can do?
Right.
That's what I'm dreaming for our children, and helping them to dream that way as well.
Yeah. I mean, we have so many gifts on the inside of us. And not only that, but because we broke the generational curse, we're adamant of making sure that our children just make sure that they get there.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you're like you did with Christian. No, you're going
You're
to
going to run. Are we going to do this together? Like, you become a midwife in a sense.
Yeah.
To the dreams of your children. I got one more. And so one of the things that I noticed in our family, and maybe you see this cycle in your family too, and I'm not going to go into much detail, but one of the things that I saw or see in the generations that have gone before us is sibling rivalries. Is groups of siblings and families in our families that or siblings that don't speak,
They don't talk to each
that
other.
don't talk. And
Wow.
I just was actually talking to someone on Sunday, and this person was saying that in his family, that's just the way it is. Like, the siblings don't get along.
Wow.
And for generations, like
Wow.
his father don't get along with this person, his sister don't get along with this cousin, and it's acceptable behavior. I feel like that these are another example of potential generational strongholds that are trying to just kind of manifesting your family
Yeah.
bloodline. And so there was a season in my siblings, my sisters and my brothers, where there was about 3 or 4 years where we did not speak. And I remember I don't know. I believe that God just revealed to me, and it honestly, at some point during the separation, it felt comfortable because I was just that offended, and I'm pretty sure they felt the same way. Like, in my mind, I buried them and they buried me.
Right.
And I was okay being like, oh, this must be how Aunt so and so feels about Aunt so and so in this on this side of the family.
Right.
I didn't understand it, but now I understand it. And it was like God was like, so you're just going to be generation number 2?
Right.
You're going to
Wow.
So what happens then as a parent when you begin to see this in your children's life? And I was like, hell no.
Wow.
Right?
You just exposed something in my family.
Really?
Yeah. Kick on though. That was good.
Yeah. And so part of my intentionality of reconciling with my sisters, and one day we're going to do an episode about that. Maybe we'll just do it with the 6 sisters. But one of the reasons had nothing to do with, yes, I love them, and yes, they're everything to me and they matter. But I knew I had to break this generational cycle that was already in our family, where siblings just split and die off and nobody talks or cares. The fact that can happen to our children,
that's huge.
Like the idea that Christian and Cameron could not speak for 5 years will bring tears to my eye right now, because like that's just crazy.
Yeah.
You want your children to be close, they grow up together, but the enemy comes in and creates all these friction and these divides and fractures.
Yeah.
So you have to intentionally, on purpose, with humility, go low, go broken, go many times to say, I'm fighting for reconciliation to break this generational curse in our family, because the buck stops here.
Yeah.
Listen, to be a generational curse breaker, to be the one to raise your hand, there were times where I said, God, can I go any lower? Like, you get up and there's mud on your face, mud on your face, mud on your face. And it's humiliating. It takes humility.
You know, it's reminding me of what you just said, the way you said it. Reminds me of, you ever see that picture where there's a whole lot of figures of people, and then the color of them is white, but right in the middle is a red one.
Yeah.
Right?
A difference maker.
Yes. And that's what's going to happen when you decide to do the opposite.
Yeah.
When your family has always done this thing, and it's really a generational curse, but you just think that it's like normal, but it's not.
It's not normal.
It's not normal. And to be the difference maker, you're going to look odd to everyone.
Yeah.
Some are going to be saying you acting funny. Some are going to be saying, oh, that's not how we act. That's not how we think. That's not how we do things.
Yeah.
But you've recognized, no, what we've been doing is actually wrong. It's demonic.
Yeah.
It's a generational curse. It's something that the enemy has placed on our family, and we haven't recognized, but I've recognized it. So I'm going to break this by doing the opposite. That's how you break it.
Man, listen, last thing I have is I remember talking to Cameron, because all of my siblings, we all have kids, right? And none of us graduated from college. None of us. And my dad didn't graduate from college. His parents didn't graduate from college. My mom eventually, when she was like in her mid 40s, went to school and then got her degree.
Right.
But right out of high school, there's no child that is currently living that has gone to college and graduated. So when my son graduated high school, and on his side of the family, his father, I did do 3 years of college, had to drop out, right? Life was life, and I just went to work. Same thing happened to his father. He was in college and had to drop out because I think, something about the parents weren't able to pay the college bill back then. And so on both of his side of the family, and even with you, none of us were able to finish college. So my son, out of all the grandkids that my parents have, will be the first, once he graduates, he's a junior, will be the first child to graduate high school and go into college and get a degree. Like I said to him, do you not know and understand the generational cycle that you are breaking? He burst into tears crying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that feels like a weight, but
it is what it is.
It's like Christian getting out there on the track. You gonna do this. You gonna break this cycle. Some cycles we might not, as parents, been able to break, but we can sure walk along with our children and help them break it.
But the seeds we sow, like the way that we speak to our children,
Yeah.
our way of thinking, our new way of thinking, we may not have physically done it, but we begin changing our mindsets, and that seed,
Yeah, that is seed.
right? It goes into our children. But we did have one. We did have one that come out of high school, going to college. And when I say he is a generational curse breaker,
Period.
my brother,
Oh, your brother. Okay, on your side.
Clarence,
Yeah. And got a degree.
not I have to leave space for him to tell his own story.
Yeah. Because the obstacles.
Yo, bro is a generational curse breaker.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's more, it don't gotta be just one in a generation.
Yeah.
Like, it's powerful when multiple siblings stand up and say, dad and mom, thank you for what you did, but we're gonna take this thing even further.
Yeah.
We talked about this with the Dorset name.
Yeah.
Right. So with the Dorset name in Delaware, I ain't gonna lie, at one point we were contemplating changing our last name because, right?
That was a conversation.
Right. Okay. A conversation. I thought about changing my last name. I was scared. It was, you got them Dorsets. They vicious up in these streets, and some of them in jail for life, if you know what I mean. And I ain't gonna lie, I was afraid. I was sending my kids to school and they had that last name, and I'm like, ugh, it could get sticky. Delaware's only but so big, right?
Yeah.
Even though we had nothing to do with whatever they were doing, it had carried a stigma.
Yeah.
And it was a word that we got, and even a word that we spoke, that it is our generation, the Erica and Clarence, your brother, and us that carry the Dorset name will redeem the name.
Yeah. Down
right?
there, his family.
Yep. Or your kids will
Yep.
redeem the name and break the generational cycle and curse of this stigma that has this bad connotation, so to speak.
We are going to be a name that's remembered
For good.
for good.
Yeah.
We will be a household name
Let's go.
for good. Listen, I'm excited about this
This
particular
is some
topic.
good talk here.
Maybe a part two. I'm not sure. We covered a lot.
Yeah, we did.
We did cover a lot. And listen,
So
we
let's recap real quick. Just make it plain for the people. What are just some quick principles that y'all could take away with? Maybe you've identified with some of our story. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, could this be a generational thing that I'm dealing with? There's two things I think we would be amiss if we didn't mention.
Yeah.
There are two ways to break it. There are anything generational that is a stronghold is going to be harder to break than something that's not. Why? Because anything that has roots that go down deep for generations, especially spiritually, it feels like it has legal right to be there.
Right.
So at some point, somebody has to raise their hand and begin serving it termination papers to say you no longer have legal right to perpetrate in my mind, in my family, and in my life to hinder the plans that God has for me. And in order to do that, you said it. You said you got to do the opposite.
You have to.
You have to do the opposite. Okay, my generation, people typically don't go to school and graduate. I'm going to go to school and graduate. No matter how hard, no matter what obstacles, I'm going to be determined and relentless in this suit, right? Here's the other thing. For my spiritual people, for my mature saints out there, there's a scripture that says, the story of Jesus and the disciples, and they were trying to cast out a spirit or demon out of a child, or theologians actually say it was a young adult that was throwing himself into the fire, and the disciples were unable to cast the spirit out. In essence, the spirit kept mocking them and kept throwing the child into the fire, which in itself is violently crazy. Right. So the disciples ended up taking the child to Jesus, who was the teacher, and they said, "Listen, we've been paraphrasing here. We're trying to cast this spirit out. It's not coming out. Like, what are we doing wrong?" And Jesus began to interview the father and said, "How long has he been this way?" And the father began to tell him he's been like this since he's a child. So right there, we understand that it was a young adult potentially that was before him, that he was bound like this for years. Right. So now you have something that has been there for years and years and years, and it feel like it has legal right to do what it wants in that person's life. So now the prescription, so to speak, or the remedy to expel it, it could be different.
Yeah.
So there's different strategies for different demons, so to speak. I know that sounds crazy, or different strongholds,
right,
or different cycles. So Jesus says to the disciples, this kind only comes out through prayer and fasting. And so when you do a word study, if you look up the word kind and go deeper in the concordance, you'll find that the word kind translates to generational, meaning that this spirit has been through generations of people in his bloodline. It's ancestral. And so Jesus ended up dealing with the spirit. And obviously we knew what happened. The boy got relief and he got delivered. What am I saying? Some of your deliverance may not come until you fast and pray. And you may say, well, I don't know how to fast, Sharee. Like, I'm just following you because y'all funny. There is a fasting where you turn down your plate. And at that moment, you're like, look, I need this thing broken off my life and my child's life. God help me. I am going to sacrifice, natural things that I need to allow for a power to come to begin usurping over this stronghold that has a hold on my life. Yo, how bad do you want to be set free?
Yeah, this is good.
How bad do you want to be set free?
That's a message.
How bad you want it?
You preaching Sunday?
No, I'm not. I'm telling you right now, I'm not. So
this is good.
This is great.
Great topic, sweetie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope that we were able to help you guys out there. Hope that you're filling up the comments or whatever, saying Me Too, because we're the Me Too people, Me Too pastors, Me Too
and we
couple.
broke generational curses even as a couple.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's
like
why it needs to be a part 2.
We fight together, man.
Yeah. Oh, that's a part 2.
We fight for one another.
Put that in the comments if you want a part 2 of that right there. Put it in the comments. But anyway, listen.
Guess what, y'all? We don't have many episodes left.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because we're at 11. We have episode 12. And then we're going to do a fun bonus episode. We're going to bring some of our friend couples on. And we're just going to have a ball. But we soon will be finishing up season 1. And y'all have been amazing.
Yeah.
Our first season has been phenomenal. I couldn't ask for a better season.
Yeah.
But we're going to take some downtime in December, keep recording, and then that way we can do a new launch of season 2. I don't know, we might even get a new backdrop, new clove, and new gear. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe some all new stuff. We'll see.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. But we're so excited about where IBL is going and growing.
Yeah.
And we need your support to continue to help us to grow and come back
to 100 subscribers.
Please, y'all got us to the point where we begging. No, our ultimate goal, in the next 6 months, we have a goal, 6 months, 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting there. It's a slow grind. But yeah, hit that bell icon, share the link. We will in the new year be on Spotify podcast, so we're going to be there. We're going to be on Apple Podcasts.
Let's go.
So we are definitely growing and expanding our wings.
In between the lines. Wow. Until next time, I'm AD.
And I'm Sharee.
Thank you for checking out In Between the Lines. Peace.
Hey, make sure you like and subscribe.
And hit that bell icon for more updates.